Good morning from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant. We hope you're enjoying your weekend, and we welcome you to Kentucky Newsmakers. Later, federal overtime rules are changing for businesses and workers, and later we'll be joined by a longtime human resources consultant with information you may need to know when it goes into effect later this year. It's set to affect tens of thousands of workers here in Kentucky. That's later. But first, an unfortunate case of deja vu. Last weekend, we visited with the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Kentucky, Kerry Harvey. He talked about the recent wave of overdoses and strategies to try to deal with it. But over the Labor Day holiday, there were 12 overdose deaths in Kentucky, and police and first responders are running to one call after another these days of drug overdoses, racing to try to revive victims. This week, we have brought in the director of the Kentucky Office of Drug Control Policy as the Commonwealth scrambles to deal with this long-term and short-term issue facing our state right now. Van Ingram joined the office shortly after it was created back in 2004. He coordinates the state's efforts in drug enforcement, treatment, and prevention. Before that, he was Maysville's police chief, where he spent a career fighting crime, and we appreciate very much you coming in today.
Glad to be here, Bill.
Thanks for being here. This wave of overdoses is an extremely disturbing trend. All of a sudden, these 12 fatal overdoses over the holiday weekend. What is going on out there?
Well, you know, we saw a shift moving away from the prescription pills to heroin. Heroin became much more available. It didn't involve going to a doctor or going to a pharmacy. An person with an opioid use disorder could get it very quickly and very cheaply. Well, things have shifted. And the folks of the drug cartels who push this stuff into our communities have a new business model. And that new business model is this. We're going to move away from heroin. We're going to create illicit fentanyl. Fentanyl is a very strong pain reliever, about 50 times more powerful than heroin. By making this shift, they move it away from an agricultural product with all the constraints that an agricultural product has of weather and time. They're buying chemicals from China. They're mixing this fentanyl in with heroin, or they're taking this fentanyl and presenting it as heroin, when in fact it's not. And even more disturbing, now they're taking them and making them look like a prescription pill. They can make it, by a pill press, make it look like a Percocet, make it look like some other Xanax or some other pill, when in fact it's fentanyl.
Where is it being made?
Usually it's made in Mexico, but we have seen some made from Canada. But most of the chemicals are coming out of Southeast Asia. So what happens when you have a spike in overdoses like we had recently? Someone has mixed that batch improperly. They've put too much fentanyl into the product and not enough filler. And so when the person with an opioid use disorder takes the amount they normally take, they're in fact getting a much more powerful dose of the drug.
You've been on all sides of this, law enforcement, educational efforts, and so forth. This became so dire that the state basically started going to people and warning them about the effects rather than trying to do busts and enforce the law over the last few weeks.
Well, you're right. We were in a dire situation, and old models have to be sometimes set aside and new models embraced. Really, Bill, this is a public health epidemic, is what we're looking at. It's not just a law enforcement problem. We have pushed a drug called naloxone or Narcan out into our communities. We're working with our syringe exchange programs around the state to get the word out. What you think you're buying may not be it. Trying to increase the availability of treatment and getting folks into treatment, taking advantage of this very dangerous time to try to motivate people into treatment.
Long term, why is Kentucky so susceptible to substance abuse? Why is this state seen as a target?
Well, certainly early on, we were one of the leaders. If you go back to 99, 2000, there were more painkillers prescribed in Kentucky and West Virginia than just about anywhere else. Since that time, it's really become a nationwide problem. And it kind of builds on itself. So in other words, that opiate problem built, the prescription pill problem built and built and built and moved across the state. Then the heroin replaces that, and then the fentanyl replaces that. So it's a never-ending struggle.
Do you believe that the current situation is more of a metro and suburban problem than maybe so much a rural issue? We know that Lexington, Louisville, and northern Kentucky have all been hit hard by these overdoses.
Yeah, strangely enough, we're not seeing a great deal of heroin and or illicit fentanyl in our rural communities. It's really been this area of Lexington, Louisville, and northern Kentucky that's been hit the hardest. Not sure why all the factors that create that. Part of it is the proximity to Cincinnati. Cincinnati has long had a heroin distribution network that easily flows across that river. But we still have the pill problem in our rural communities in eastern Kentucky. So whether it's a prescription pill or whether it's fentanyl bought off the street, it's all dangerous and it can all kill you.
Well, Mr. Ingram, we're told by local communities, you know, they don't have the money to build the jail space that is needed. They do not have appropriate or adequate treatment facilities. People need long-term treatment in many cases, and it is not available. What is Kentucky's strategy right now?
What we're doing right now is trying to beef up those treatment resources, and one of the ways we're doing that, Governor Bevin in this last budget, and it survived the General Assembly, put in $15.7 million to the Justice Cabinet for us to work with some treatment providers, work in our correctional system, and provide more treatment, and we've done that. About 10 days ago, we granted out $4.6 million to 10 community mental health centers around the state to increase their ability to do medication-assisted treatment. We put out about $2.6 million to agencies that are in programs around the state that treat opiate-addicted moms who may be pregnant or and be at risk of NAS or neonatal abstinence syndrome. We've increased the funding to our Department of Corrections by $3 million to do programs for non-state inmates in county jails, to do programs for state inmates in county jails, and to do a program with naltrexone. Naltrexone is a drug that can be injected and it will negate the effect of an opioid. So if someone's coming out of a sober environment like a jail or prison, it gives them a fighting chance of not using when they get out.
We're told so often by authorities these days who've looked at this from every angle that this is something that we are not going to incarcerate ourselves out of. You were a long time police officer and police chief. Do you believe that?
Well, I believe this. For those that are trafficking these drugs at a high level, jail is the appropriate place for them. For those who have a opioid use disorder, they're addicted, jail's probably not going to be very effective. Medication-assisted treatment, other forms of inpatient treatment will be more effective and probably be better use of our dollars.
Employers tell us, you know, they can't find enough qualified applicants who can pass drug screenings. Is this holding the state's economy back?
Well, it doesn't help. It certainly doesn't help. When I hear of manufacturers that have to, I heard of one recently back home that went through 90 applicants to find 11 that were suitable and could pass a drug test. So it doesn't help. And it's something that we need to be concerned about. And moving people into treatment and creating fewer and fewer addicts is our best strategy.
Do you feel good about where we are right now in terms of having a strategy, or do you think, for instance, in the coming legislature, because of this problem that is apparently suddenly worse, this is going to have to be dealt with?
Well, certainly we're never going to turn away from any new or better strategies that might come along. But I feel like we are addressing the issue as well as we can. Bill, this opioid use problem that we have in this nation didn't occur overnight, and there's no one law, there's no one strategy that's going to fix it overnight. This is over 2 decades in the making of a nation that's been overexposed to opioids, and now we're paying the price for that. All medications have risk and rewards, and at one time the rewards were discussed quite a bit, but the risks weren't. And now we're dealing with those risks.
You have, as we said, a multi-pronged strategy, and of course it is enforcing the law, but it is also education, it is treatment, and so forth. We hear varying reports about the effectiveness of such programs as the DARE program. I'm sure you had that when you were with the police department. Do you think that is working? Or do we continue to invest in that, or do we look for some other strategy?
No, matter of fact, I just came from a program review committee where we spent the 2 hours talking about prevention and talking about the need for it in our schools. You know, our schools have time constraints. They have a lot of things they have to get done in a school day. But I think it's something that we as a state and as a nation can't turn away from. We got to give young people education, and we got to give them tools and skills to say no, to choose a different path. And sometimes school's the only place they're going to hear that message.
Yeah. Given what we've seen happen just in the last couple of months, I mean, what would you say to people out there right now as we wrap up this interview? What would you have them know in terms of what is being done and what they need to know?
Well, here's the interesting thing, Bill, and the 12 lives that were lost this past week is tragic. But because of this, the heavy distribution of naloxone that we've worked on, and a Good Samaritan provision that allows someone to call 911 if their friend is overdosing, and if they have a small amount of drugs or paraphernalia, they won't be arrested. When you have 12 overdoses in Mount Sterling and only one is fatal, or you have 124 in Cincinnati with only 3 of them being fatal, something's working there. We're saving more of them than we're losing. And so that's a strategy we need to double down on. We can't treat people that are no longer with us. People can't reach recovery if they're dead. So we got to take every opportunity to save every life we can and try everything we can to turn it around.
Van Ingram coming in today from the Commonwealth Office of Drug Control Policy. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Hope you'll keep it here on WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. Back in just a moment, we'll look at this new wage and hour rules that are coming, and they're coming fast. A lot of businesses trying to figure out how to deal with it. Coming up on WKYT Kentucky Newsmakers. Welcome back to WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. The U.S. Department of Labor's final rule on overtime exemptions under the Fair Labor Standards Act takes effect December 1st. Businesses are scrambling to figure out what that will mean for them, how they will comply. Our next guest says there is uncertainty on all sides of this issue. It can be overcome, though, with solid information and some planning. Joining us is Brian Simmons. He has more than a quarter of a century of experience in human resources, where he's worked in fields including banking, retail, hospitality, education, and others. He is a human resources advisor with CM Consulting in Lexington. Thank you, Mr. Simmons, for coming in.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for having me.
Well, we've all heard something is coming December 1st, and it's going to affect a lot of people in their jobs and affect employers as well. What will happen that we need to know about?
Well, what's happening, Bill, is the Fair Labor Standards Act, which was enacted in 1938, provided for child labor provisions as well as setting a minimum wage. And one of the other things that it provided was for overtime exemptions. And with overtime exemptions, that's a major focus of what's changing within this final rule. Employees have to be classified as either being exempt from overtime provisions or non-exempt from overtime provisions. Now, when I say overtime provisions, what I'm meaning is for hours worked over 40 hours in an established work week, most people have the understanding that they receive overtime pay for those hours. Well, if you're exempt from overtime, then you receive a certain salary amount and you're not paid for overtime hours. You're paid the same salary regardless of the amount of hours that you work.
That's considered to have been built into your pay, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. Now, but now you say the change will mean that someone is not automatically going to be considered exempt if they're salaried. Right.
Exactly, and that's one of the main misconceptions and one of the main reasons behind misclassification of whether an employee is exempt or non-exempt. A lot of organizations and businesses think that because they put someone on a salary basis, then they're automatically exempt. But that's not the case. There are certain criteria that have to be met in order for someone to be exempt. With each exemption, they do have to be on a salary basis, or for some it's a fee basis as well. But then there also has to be a salary level threshold, a minimum salary that that person has to make. And then there's also what's called the duties test. Certain criteria as part of the actual work duties that a person has to perform in order to be exempt. And they have to meet all three. areas.
So some managers or people who work in positions, they get calls in the middle of the night, or they do travel and this sort of thing. This will be something that employers are going to have to figure out.
You're exactly right. This is huge. The Department of Labor right now estimates that it will directly affect about 4.2 million people. It's going to indirectly affect a lot more than that. What companies have to do now is to first look and see if they have employees classified properly in the first place. That's the main thing, because it's based on the actual job duties and the actual work that an employee does, and it's done on a case-by-case basis.
And you have indications that the government is going to be aggressive in investigating these matters.
They're going to be very aggressive. I've had the opportunity to sit with the Assistant District Director of the Department of Labor's Wage and Hour Division. His direct quote was, "They are a law enforcement agency and they will enforce the law. They're expecting 100% compliance on this." That means that the investigators will be out. The administration has requested an additional $50 million for the fiscal year 2017 budget for the Wage and Hour Enforcement Division alone. And that's huge, because that represents a lot more investigators will be on the ground. The investigators have what's called sufficient latitude. They can come in unannounced into organizations, and they're going to be looking for these misclassification issues as well as compliance with this final rule.
Mr. Simmons, how will this affect the typical family? You know, two parents, couple of kids, $40,000 to $50,000 wage being earned within the home. How will it affect them?
Well, it can affect them in several ways. One, if someone is under that salary level threshold and they do meet all of the other criteria for an exemption, well, that person is no longer exempt. So let's say somebody's making $40,000 a year. Let's say currently they are exempt. They meet the duties, they're on a salary basis. But now, with that salary level threshold, the organization will have to say whether they're going to increase them to the new salary level threshold, which is now $47,476 effective December 1st. You see, currently it's $23,660. So this is a 100% increase in that salary level threshold. So the company has to decide whether to increase the salary, or whether to make the person non-exempt and pay them the overtime, or hold the person to 40 hours, and whether they reorganize the duties, whether they bring in part-time help to take the overflow of work. Companies are really going to have to look at several options in order to do this. But
do you get a sense that that businesses and companies are properly preparing for this and preparing their management structure to deal with this in terms of how workers' time is going to have to be managed?
Well, they're not, and that's the part where the awareness needs to be there, and companies really need to start planning and preparing now, because December 1st is right around the corner. Managers will have to be trained. These changes have to be communicated to employees. This is a big change for a lot of employees, because you have a lot of exempt employees that they've been able to come and go as they please. At 3 o'clock they can leave, or they can work late at night. Now that won't be the case, because these hours worked as a non-exempt employee have to be recorded and tracked, and the overtime has to be paid on those hours over 40.
Lunch breaks will be required, right? And what exactly does that mean? I mean, can somebody work through lunch and you know, and that's okay?
As a non-exempt employee, that's not okay. In the state of Kentucky, every 5 hours, that person has to have at least a minimum of a half-hour lunch break away from work, meaning they can't be permitted to work, or what they call suffered to work. So whereas an exempt employee during lunch, they could sit at their desk and still work while they're having lunch. For a non-exempt employee, that can't be the case, because if they work during that lunch break, that's called hours worked, and you have to pay them for that time.
So if someone has been exempt and they have worked longer hours because they took pride in their work and wanted to you know, be sure that it is done properly, and they get reclassified, then all of a sudden maybe they were putting in 50, 55 hours, that's going to be slipped back to required 40, and they may not be able to get the same quality of work done? Is that a concern?
That is a concern because that will be a decision that the business will have to make. It could take, for instance, a general manager, let's say at any restaurant or motel, making $40,000 a year, currently exempt and working 50 hours a week. Well, now, if they still meet the duties test and that salary level threshold has gone up, the company has to decide whether to bump them up in salary or pay them the overtime, which if you spread that out, they would actually make about $55,000 a year, or cut back their hours for them to get that work done in 40 hours.
And yet you've told me that this could potentially strain employee-employer relations because there are some who do not want to be reclassified, right?
You're exactly right. Some view this as a demotion once they've been exempt from overtime, and now they would become non-exempt.
Suddenly they have to punch a clock.
Suddenly they have to punch a clock. That time is recorded, and that time has to be managed. And we've seen cases where some would rather resign thinking that it's a demotion.
Wow. How challenging is it for businesses out there right now to recruit and train and retain talent?
It's tough. And the businesses are crying about that. There are several issues on the employment landscape from recruiting through retirement that are changing. A major change like this affecting 4.2 million directly, I would say it's going to be upward of at least 8 million indirectly. These costs that are associated with learning about the rule, with the training that needs to take place, they're going to be passed on as well somewhere. So they'll be passed on to the consumers. You and I and everybody else that's watching the program have to be aware that these changes are taking place, and all of the social issues around us that are taking place, all of these things are pouring into the work environment. So it's creating what's considered that perfect storm of employee relations issues, or what I call employee relations opportunities at this point.
Well, what would you say to someone who says, you know, the Labor Department currently is run by President Obama, and there will be a new president at the beginning of next year? Would rules like this potentially change under a new administration?
This rule is not going to change. This rule is here. There have been attempts to pass bills in the House and in Congress. If you do a bill tracking, it will show you that the likelihood of this stopping would be at about 8%. So again, in speaking with the Assistant District Director of the Wage and Hour Division, he is warning organizations and businesses not to think that this is going away. This is going to happen on December 1st.
You're giving several seminars and talks on this in the region throughout the next couple of months or so. Would you advise people with employees to, come to one of those or get educated in some way?
Most definitely, and that's what we're advising. Awareness, planning, and preparation. On September the 20th, we will be doing an event for the Kentucky State Chamber in Louisville, September the 23rd at Commerce Lexington here in Lexington, and also September the 30th here in Lexington with the Kentucky State Chamber as well.
So people have a lot of questions, and they'll be coming with those, right?
They will be coming with their questions, and we want them to come with their questions.
How much has human resources changed in your almost 30 years doing this?
Oh my goodness, I was in human resources back when they called it personnel.
Yeah.
And we've seen major changes. A similar change, the last change that happened with the salary threshold happened in 2004 when it went from $8,060 to the current $23,660. During that time frame, wage and hour violations increased year over year 515%. So we've seen a lot of increased enforcement, a lot of the penalties have increased, a lot of the regulations are changing, and just more intense employee relations issues.
Brian Simmons, thanks for coming in and letting us know about this, and we'll stay plugged in here till we roll through this and find out how employees handle it, and employers as well.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Hope you'll stay with us. We'll hear from Ray Larson, the Commonwealth's attorney from Fayette County, who decided he's going to be retiring at the end of the month. Coming up on WKYT Kentucky Newsmakers. Welcome back now to Kentucky Newsmakers on WKYT. An interesting program it's been this morning, and Ray Larson is leaving as Lexington's long-serving Commonwealth's attorney. He's been on the job since 1985. He will be leaving at the end of the month. He was typically direct and somewhat humorous when he talked to WKYT about the reasons he's stepping down now.
I'm 73 years old, and I feel good. I've got energy, but I've always said that I don't want to be that old man that hangs on too long. I also have said before that I'll retire when we catch them all. So I'm officially announcing today that we have caught every one of those rascal criminals. Some of them half a dozen times. But the reality is I've always said I don't want to be the old man that hung around too long. And it just seems like the time is right. Our office is extremely strong with high quality prosecutors.
Ray Larson, and we'll hopefully catch up with him before he officially leaves office again at the end of the month, and our best wishes certainly to him. We want to thank you for joining us for this edition of Kentucky Newsmakers. I'll see you bright and early this week on WKYT This Morning. We begin at 4:30, so we're up when you're up, and you make it a good week ahead.